Hello, welcome back to Too Many Books. My name is Sean, and today I want to talk to you about Gwendy's Magic Feather by Richard Chizmar, the sequel to Gwendy's Button Box, which was co-written by Chizmar and Stephen King. While I'm talking about this book, I'm actually going to be showcasing 2.5 editions. We have the trade edition, published by Cemetery Dance, featuring cover artwork by Ben Baldwin, interior artwork by Keith Minnion. We also have the signed and numbered edition by SST Publications, featuring artwork by Vincent Sammy, and I believe Glenn Chadbourne does a map in the back. And of course we have the signed edition from Cemetery Dance, which features the same Keith Minnion artwork on the inside with a different dust jacket from Francois Vaillancourt. I will go over more details about these editions once I'm done talking about the novel itself. So let's jump right in. Oh, let's rip the Band-Aid off, shall we? So Gwendy's Magic Feather is the sequel to Gwendy's Button Box, as I mentioned. And it's an alright, up until the final act, it's an alright kind of murder mystery noir. I mean, it's, it has its ups and its downs. It's a little slow at times. I mean, the wheels do fall off in the final act, but I will get to that momentarily in a spoiler-free manner. But I won't rip the Band-Aid off. As an actual sequel to Gwendy's Button Box, it's a pretty terrible sequel. What I mean is that this novel does follow Gwendy. Gwendy's Button Box featured young little pre-tween teenage Gwendy, who is given a enormous responsibility. She is given a mysterious button box. The buttons have dire consequences. The box also dispenses magic chocolates and rare coins. It's a fantastic read. I did a whole book review on that on the channel. Showcased a couple of different editions, one of which was signed by Stephen King. You should check that out. But Gwendy's Button Box was a full story. It had closure. It had an ending. It even had Richard Ferris talking about how the rest of Gwendy's life was going to be. So, you don't really need a sequel. But Richard Chizmar said, you know what? I think Gwendy's got another tale in her. And so Gwendy's Magic Feather came into being. Which, okay, I mean, if you have a good enough story to tell, then I'm all for it. Sometimes sequels happen, and sequels might be forced, but sometimes good sequels can still come out of things. Gwendy's Magic Feather is not one of those instances. Just because this now follows Gwendy, now adult Gwendy, in the 1990s, the tail end of the 90s, and she is now a congresswoman. Okay, sure. She had her successful author career. She turned that into screenwriting, won an Oscar, whatever. I mean, she's got magically superior luck, which could be a side effect from the chocolates that she ate as a kid. I don't know. I'll leave that up for your own interpretation. Maybe it's a little more obvious to some. It is what it is. But the novel of Gwendy's Magic Feather deals with adult Gwendy, Congresswoman Gwendy, finding the box has come back into her life, which could be an interesting concept if you did anything with it. But the box is almost secondary to the story. It doesn't serve any purpose. The core of Gwendy's Magic Feather actually deals with a kind of murder mystery. Girls are disappearing back in Castle Rock. And Gwendy Peterson, being the congresswoman, decides that she's going to get involved in the investigation. And that's really the heart of the story. Which, I mean, sure, if you want to turn Gwendy into a private eye of sorts, go for it. But it wasn't anything that was ever hinted at with Gwendy's Button Box. The adult Gwendy here, is almost a completely different character from the teenage Gwendy we met in Gwendy's Magic Feather. I mean, sure, her past is the same, but there's really no characterization that kind of carries over from one to the next. I mean, you could very easily remove Gwendy, the Button Box, and any references to Gwendy's, the first novella from this, and it would still just be its own standalone mystery, and you wouldn't change anything at the heart of the novel, it's not really, it's not a good sign. It's one thing if you're like an author like Janet Ivanovich and you're writing, mystery novel to mystery novel. And, obviously Stephanie Plum is not going to be this, you're not going to have direct sequel after direct sequel. You have the same investigator in each novel, but that's not the case with Gwendy. So what you have here is almost its own standalone tale that just happens to be like crammed with references to Gwendy's Button Box. It's like a forced sequel. It's almost like Richard Chizmar had, he had this Tooth Fairy, which is the name of the kidnapper / killer. He had this story in his mind, and he's like, I want to write a story of it, but he didn't want to get published it by itself, so he kind of morphed it and shaped it into a Gwendy sequel. Which, I mean, that in and of itself is not a good sign for a sequel. It's too forced. You know what I mean? The story itself, it's all right. I mean, it's your pretty run-of-the-mill, like, murder mystery. It's kind of weird, in my opinion, that the lead investigator, the person who seems to be at the heart of this whole thing, is a congressperson and not an actual law enforcement agent. But, it is what it is. Maybe, I can't say that I've experienced a sort of kidnapping murder spree like this in my own hometown, so maybe it is natural for the congressperson to be front and center. I don't know. It feels a little odd to me, but it is what it is. It definitely has potential as a murder mystery novel. Unfortunately, as I mentioned, the wheels do fall off in the final act. I don't want to spoil anything, but I'm just going to say that the way things are resolved are in a very lazy, almost Deus Ex Machina sort of way. Just like having a magical solution to the issues with like no real lead up to that. Like the magic solution comes out of nowhere, it does its job, and then you're done. You're done with it. It's just, I don't know. That part feels just beyond lazy. And I guess I should say that the button box may have contributed to that magic. I mean, the button box does in fact play a part in one side storyline in the novel. But I don't really have much interest in that side storyline, and its solution to that side storyline is just magic. So, it's not so much of oh wow, it's integral to the plot, so much as that it was a lazy way out for the side storyline. I don't know if the magic also, is part of the magic that solves the main storyline, but if it is, it just feels like lazy writing. And I hate to say that because, I read, was Chasing the Boogeyman the first one? Becoming the Boogeyman? I think Chasing the Boogeyman was the first one that Chizmar wrote, and that was fine. I actually enjoyed that one. It was, wasn't really groundbreaking in any way, but it certainly got the job done. It was an enjoyable story. He was able to, even though I guess now I'm saying it out loud, I guess there really wasn't a conclusion in that one either. So maybe, I'm defeating my own arguments live on camera. So, Gwendy's Button Box was a very good standalone novella. If you enjoyed it and you said, man, I really need to know what Gwendy's up to in her future, then sure, maybe Gwendy's Magic Feather is something you can check out. Personally, though, I don't think it's necessarily a good sequel to Gwendy's Button Box. It's kind of a forced sequel. It doesn't feel natural. It's not a good fit. So if you are desperate for more reading material, something that features Gwendy, check out Gwendy's Magic Feather. Otherwise, I honestly think you can probably skip it. It's a very middling read and a very, very poor sequel. But if you are interested in picking up a copy, there are plenty of copies out there that you could choose from. As I've just shown you here, there are at least 3 editions that I can showcase, including the signed edition, it's not numbered, by Cemetery Dance, which is sold out, but you can find it pretty cheap on the secondary market. I would say probably the best edition, the fanciest edition out there, is probably going to be the SST edition. It doesn't quite have the full color plates. This first one's a full color plate, but the other artwork is, printed black and white, which is disappointing because the artwork was nice, full tipped-in color plates for Gwendy's button box. But hey, beggars can't be choosers. I think Vincent Sammy's artwork kicks ass in this one. Gwendy's Magic Feather does feature both the introduction, the foreword by Stephen King, and an afterword by Bev Vincent. Bev Vincent's afterword talks about how it's an honor to be one of the first readers of this. He's the go-to Stephen King expert. It's a very nice afterword. You could feel the excitement of Bev Vincent through his afterword. But the introduction, the foreword by Stephen King, is the same one you're going to find within the trade editions, including the trade hardcover and the trade paperback. There is a new edition, which is an omnibus featuring all 3 Gwendy titles in one, which has probably been the most affordable one you can go with if you're looking to pick up all 3 tales in and of itself. I'm reading Gwendy's Final Task next, and I will do a full book review for that, as well as a book comparison on my channel in this upcoming week. So please subscribe to the channel to check that out once that is posted. But yeah, anyways, it's not a terrible read. I will say I hate the ending. The ending with its forced magic resolution is garbage. But above all, it's just a poor sequel to Gwendy's Button Box. It didn't need to be a Gwendy sequel. You forced that square peg in the round hole. You did what you had to do. But in hindsight, having read this now here in 2025, it didn't necessarily need to be a sequel other than for marketing purposes. There is there's also an upcoming really fancy edition, which is the lettered edition from Cemetery Dance. It hasn't been released yet. They're still working on it, but hey, it's only been 6 years, so, any day now. I don't know much about that one other than it's coming with like a wooden handmade feather. I had that one on order, but I'm regretful to say that I've since canceled that. Not so much for the weight. I'm a very patient man. Just because having read the novel, it just, no, not for me. But anyways, thank you guys very much for watching. Like I said, check out Stephen King, check out Richard Chizmar, even if this isn't the one you check out by them. Please subscribe to the channel. I do at least one book review a week. I have, Gwendy's Button Box from a few weeks ago, Gwendy's Magic Feather right here. Gwendy's Final Task will be next week. I also have plenty of unboxing videos in between here and there to keep you entertained. So anyways, thank you guys very much for watching, and we'll see you around next time.